Hello YouTube, we're back again to reinstall the new tub for the Kenmore two-stage front load washer. Let's start with the paperwork. I just want to be clear here that this is the warranty information for the tumble action dryer. And it says for the limited 10-year warranty, for the 2nd through 10th year from the date of purchase, Sears will replace the inner wash basket if it is defective in material and workmanship. Period. And then you must pay the labor cost to have it installed. So I'm paying the person that I know best, who I trust the most, and who's the cheapest, and that's myself. So here we have it, the receipt from Sears, and there it is, ladies and gentlemen, under warranty, $300.99 to replace a stainless steel tub that was defective to begin with, because they really don't know how to design tubs. Now, keep in mind, when you take back your old tub, you're going to want to take off these fins on the inside. Those plastic fins do not come with the new tub, so it's just a single screw in the corner, and then it's a little metallic tab that pushes down. To get it out, just take a flat-eyed screwdriver, bend it up, take out your screw, and slide it back. Now, I did compare the old tub and the new tub just to make sure they are right, and be very delicate with these things because they are balanced from the factory, so you don't want to knock it around too much, otherwise you're going to throw it out of whack. And notice the same design. They haven't learned their lesson, they just bought more of them. It's the aluminum cast arms with the stainless steel drum, and over time in the next 5 years, I guess it's going to start cracking, and eventually the corrosion will just eat right through it with all that detergent and water in there. So first step, I'm going to take the halves that I have, I'm going to clean them out, and once they're clean, I'm going to take that tub and I'm going to slide it into the bearing assembly gently at first, and then it's just going to tap into place. So there it is, I've slid the tub back into the back half of the assembly. This would also be the ideal time to change the bearing if you need to. Me personally, my bearing was quite fine, everything was nice and smooth, there's no real squealing, and we caught the vibration early, so by catching it early, we prevented ourselves from further maintenance and having to replace these. Sometimes they're sonic welded in, sometimes there's a ring clip. This one in particular is sonic welded in, so it'd be a real pain in the ass to try to replace. So what you'd inevitably have to do is more than likely get another back half assembly of the tub basin. But we're lucky today, we don't have to do that. So it comes right through, slides in nice and easy, and now we're going to take that second half there, and we're going to marry it to the front half and take all those screws that we pulled out from the beginning and ratchet them in. And we're going to ratchet them in nice and tight, because in and around here, this is our this is the seal between the two tubs, so it's going to be nice and tight. And I looked at the seal earlier, it looks quite good. I'm not going to silicone it just yet because I don't think it needs it. I think just enough pressure and brute force and ignorance, and that'll hold real tight. So here you have it, we're putting in the dozens of screws that go around all around the edge, and I'm going to be sure to tighten them up. I'm going to do a crisscross pattern similar to that you do when you're putting back together a wheel assembly. So we're going to do one side, then the complete other side, then a corner, then the other side, and just keep rotating back and forth so we get a good even pinch on the seal. Another thing to be aware of is that this particular washer uses bolts. Some of them use clips with little bolts on the side. There's all different methods as to how you squeeze the two halves together. Just be sure that it seats nicely. It'll only fit in one way, so don't force it any other way. And then once it's in, you want to take a feel inside, make sure that that drum is free and spinning and that there's nice smooth movement, and then that the shaft is all the way through. Try not to put weight on the back shaft because that'll push it out again, and that's not what we want as we put in our new drum. So we have our tub assembly back together again. We've made sure that all the bolts are nice and tight. We've done a crisscross pattern throughout. The next step is going to be to create this tub assembly front forward, and we're going to be going in through the rear of the machine. What I'm going to do to make it easier is I'm going to move the motor out of the way. I learned my lesson last time about having the motor underneath, which is a bit of a problem. And then we're going to raise it up into the center of the hole. And then in the corners, depending on the unit, you're going to have springs, either 2 or 4. So I've got 2 springs on my particular model. We're going to set the springs in place, bring the hooks up and into their mounting points on the frame. So one side at a time. It's always good if you have help to do this. It is a rather heavy machine. It's full of concrete. So once I get the chance, I'm going to slide it in and then lift it up into place. Okay, just before putting the tub assembly back in, we're going to have to put back on the flywheel that holds the tub assembly in place, keeps it from sliding forward out of the bearing. That's just going to slide on to the shaft that's protruding. And I'm not going to put any pressure on here because I don't want to push the drum inwards. I'm just going to let it sit. I'm going to put the nut and bolt, and I'm going to tighten it down so that it draws it backwards as opposed to pushing it forward and putting pressure on the bearing. Once that's in, we'll put the tub inside. To tighten the bell housing and pulley to the tub. I'm going to use the same trick as last time. Brute force and ignorance, of course, but more so I'm going to take a screwdriver, shove it in the bezel so that the inner drum can't move, and then I'm going to put my nut driver on there. Let's see if I can get a good shot of this. There it is. And with my nut driver and my screwdriver, we're going to hold that bezel in place and then tighten up that nut. It doesn't have to be super tight, it has to be enough because this thing spins pretty fast and we don't want it coming loose. So here we are back to a very similar picture we saw at the beginning of the whole thing. We've got the tub hanging on 2 springs, and thanks to my helpful assistant, we got it up. It is a pain in the ass. This thing weighs a ton, so do be careful. You do need help to get it up. One option was to put a car jack underneath, but you got to be really careful here because there's a lot of sensitive stuff down there, and you don't want to go bending anything, especially that speed controller in the corner. So again, now we've got it hanging. The next step's going to be, we're going to take these shock absorbers, which you see here, and we're going to go put them back the way they were with those plastic pins. So we're going to align the shock absorber with the mount, which is up here, put the pin in on both sides, and then we'll move on to the next step. So now we've got the shocks back in. We've put the pins in the appropriate spots. It sits nicely. It doesn't jiggle as much now that it's on those shock absorbers. We're going to start by putting the motor back. I'm just going to slide that back into position. In this particular case, there's 3 bolts that hold the motor into place. So we're just going to slide that motor up into its original caddy, put back the 3 bolts that hold it there, and then we'll put the belt assembly. From there, we're going to go underneath and reattach all of those hose fittings around the outside and anything else that you have connected for a higher end washing machine. You're going to have a heater, you're going to have a heat coil, you're going to have a whole bunch of tie wraps that click to the side. So anything like that that connects to the body or frame of the washing machine, you're going to want to put back before we go to the front and put back on the door seal. Now we're at the point where we've put the belt back on. Yeah, that's pretty easy to slide on. Again, you can use a screwdriver. I use my hands. Brute force and ignorance is okay here as long as you don't break the belt. It'll take a bit of stretching, but not too much. And again, you want to make sure that your belt doesn't have any cracks or wear in the individual tread of the belt itself. We've put back on the drain, any other connectors that have connected to the tub. We've tied up all the loose ends. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put back on the front door seal. Now, it's everything that we did in the beginning in reverse. So we're going to start in the corner by feeding this tube where the detergent and such goes in, and then we're going to wrap the seal around the front again, and then we're going to use that spring and wire just along the inside of the railing between the black and the wall where the spring is, stretch it out, feed it in nice and slow and nice and smooth. Again, we don't want to rip this. It is waterproof, and we don't want to ruin our door seal because that is rather expensive to replace. Not least to say that the inside is expensive to replace too. And then once we've done that, we're going to put the back on with all those black screws. Sometimes it's screws, sometimes it's bolts, sometimes they're hex. Whatever the case is, we're going to put the back on, then the roof back on. Then we're going to plug it in. We're going to test run it and show you how well she runs. So before I close it all up, there were 2 things I wanted to check. The first thing I wanted to check was that it's balanced, the spin cycle works. And the second thing I wanted to check is that there's no leakage from anywhere in the back or behind. Now, there's just some residual water. All I've done is I've just run a cold line of water to the back, to the cold section, and I put the drain to the drain. So we're going to start with a rinse cycle. I'm going to close the machine, set it up for a rinse and spin, and see that she fills up. And when she fills up, that she holds water, that she's not going to leak. And then on the final spin, we'll give you a little video of what it sounds like, or what it's supposed to sound like when she's finally done the final spin cycle. So when I filled the tub, I did have one small leak, and it has to do with this hose clamp up here. It's not really a hose clamp, it's just a wire that's held in with a screw there. Kind of hard to see, a little low light, but you really got to tighten her down, otherwise she does tend to leak a little bit. So I'm just giving her the last little crank, and that's made for some drier conditions. But everything otherwise seems to work great. The spin cycle is working, so is the fill and the drain, and we don't have any leaks to speak of so far. So we're going to let it keep running here for a little bit, and then I'm going to run it on the high spin cycle. So here we are on the spin cycle, and that is just music to my ears. Look at how smooth that is, not a single vibration. That's the way it should be, a nice smooth cycle. When we look inside, We see she's spinning nicely. There's no heavy noises, no squeaking. I didn't change the bearing in this case because I was very lucky. I was able to stop it in time. But if you did not stop it in time, you would hear a terrible squealing right now. Look at that, running smooth as silk. That's what we want to see. So don't let them fool you. You can do this on your own. It's not that hard of a job. Anyone can do it with a couple tools, a little bit of know-how. Thank you again. Leave your comments below, and best of luck.